I would like to thank you all for being here, and in particular, thank Elizabeth Jordan, our Club Growth Director, for being here because she is taking over now. Elizabeth, over to you.
Thank you very much, DTM Steve. Last week, I gave a rather fulsome introduction to Peter. I think many of you were here. I'm not going to repeat all that. All I would say is that it has been such a pleasure and a privilege to have a real expert in his field grace her presence. I think last week what Peter showed us was what a masterclass really is. And he, I believe, has excited and inspired us. I'm hoping to do great things in District 71. Peter, for those of you who weren't here last week, he's been a professor, he's an academic, he's a businessman, he's a livery man from the ancient liveries in London. And above all, I think what is most, fantastic is that Peter has dedicated a lot of his time to help charities and nonprofits really use marketing, because in District 71, we need it. And I'm so happy that we have him again tonight to give us part 2 of what he started last week. So Peter, I'm just going to hand over to you to continue where you left off last week. And we're looking forward to another masterclass from a master.
Okay, thank you very much, Elizabeth. Okay, so welcome back, and it's very nice to be with you again. I've been looking forward to this all week. And tonight I'm going to be sharing some more slides with you from my charity marketing program, but I've also added some new slides which haven't been published or made public before about some particular thoughts I've had about membership organisations, and I'll include those in this evening's briefing as well. So let me make a start and explain what we're going to cover today. And we're going to build on the work we started last week using the SOSTAC model, the SOSTAC framework, which I outlined to you. And if you remember, we were about halfway through the model and we got up to as far as strategy. We did situation, which answers the question, where are we today? And objectives, which answer the question, where are we going? Which define the start and end point of our marketing journey. And then I gave you an introduction to the first half of the strategy section, which answers the question, how will we get there? So I'm going to start by continuing that and then go into the last 2 sections of SOSTAC, action and control, and finish as before with some concluding remarks. There's going to be time for questions at regular points during this presentation, and we'll have a 5-minute break about halfway through. So probably around 7:45, we'll have a 5-minute break for you to stretch your legs and get some refreshment. So let me press on and just remind you diagrammatically where we are. We've done situation and objectives. We're going to do the second part of strategy, which answers the question about what are the things we can do to help us achieve our objectives. So I'm going to start off with strategy part 2. And if you remember, the things we've covered in strategy so far were 3 topics. I explained to you the concept of the big question, which is what is it about our products and services that makes our organization better and different to our competitors in ways that are valued by and add value to our stakeholders or clients or members that can't be easily copied? And that was the big question. And we looked at 2 approaches to start to answer that. The first one was the concept of product markets. And in this section, I talked to you about a model called the ANSOF matrix, if you remember, which talked about existing products and offers and new products and offers and existing markets and new markets. Within the ANSOF matrix, there were 4 strategies: market penetration, market development, product development, and diversification. And if you don't remember all of that, you can take a quick refresher on it. I then talked about market segmentation. This is something I'm going to talk about a little bit more this week, which is the idea of grouping people with common wants and needs and providing a different offer for each one. And I'll talk about how you might do this and whether you do it or not at all today. So that's what we've covered so far in strategy. And today I'm going to cover 2 new topics. The first one is called targeting, and the second one is positioning. Targeting is quite straightforward and it'll only take a couple of slides to explain. But positioning, like the SWOT analysis that we talked about last week, is something that most people almost entirely always get wrong, because it is very badly taught and badly explained in business schools and textbooks and articles. So I'll give you my more practical view of positioning and positioning maps to the way that it's normally taught. So let's start off with targeting. And this really helps us to decide, once we've done our market segmentation, it helps us to decide whom to serve and whom to support. And in a commercial organization, that's normally you try and sell things to the people who've got the most money and generate the most profit. And it's in membership organizations, it's trying to find groups of people in the community who have wants and needs that our product and service can satisfy. So again, we're really turning things around and putting the focus on the people who benefit from our products and services. So it's not about what we make and what we deliver, it's about what our users and what our members want and what we can do to satisfy those wants and needs, which goes back to my original definition of marketing. So there are three things to think about when you're doing targeting. The first thing is you could say, right, I've done some analysis, I've done some market research, and basically everybody in society wants the same thing. They all want to learn, for example, public speaking, ways to present themselves, how to make an argument. They want social interaction, they want community and friendship. Everybody wants the same thing, and we will just make one, in your case, Toastmasters proposition that we just push out to the world. So everybody, you all want this, let's explain to you what it is that we do and why it's good for you. Probably more appropriately for you, like many organizations, is you've probably got different groups of customers in your target market with different wants and needs. So I'm just making up some examples here, knowing little about your organization, but you could decide there's a whole group of people in the community in the UK or in the UK and Ireland, for example, retired people. And retired people will have a special benefit from Toastmasters proposition. They get support, social interaction with others. They can practice and hone the skills they perhaps learned during their business life, if they're a retired person or an old person, and they can perhaps share skills and participate in sharing their knowledge with others. You might have another market segment, which is people at the middle to intimate stage of a business career. And what they feel from a business point of view, it would benefit their promotion chances and their advancement in their organization if they were better presenters. Because I expect you've noticed, like me, that in most organizations, all of the top management usually are pretty good presenters. And it's never written down as a qualification, but people who present and communicate well tend to achieve the higher executive and management positions. And you might have another market, which is younger individuals from, say, 18 to 25 or 16, I don't know what your lower age limit is for membership, but say 16 to 25, which might be young people who just want to increase their self-confidence and their ability to communicate because they're going onto the job market for the first time. So you might decide, having done market research, that those are the three segments that you're going to particularly focus on, and you're going to make a different proposition and a different offer for each one. And if you did that, that's called differentiated targeting. Different segments have different requirements, and you make a different offer for each one. The third option says, right, we've done some market research and we've identified three target segments, but we're only going to go after one of them, or only going to go after two of them. And that's called a concentrated targeting. So you need to decide in your own discussion time how you're going to segment your markets, what those segments are, and which ones you're going to go after and make a big thing about and develop offers for and communicate about. And that's the second step of this segmentation, targeting and positioning. That's targeting. After you've done segmentation, after you've done targeting, you come into the third step of the process, because targeting gives you some particular benefits. You can only do targeting after you've completed a proper market segmentation. And many charities have got where they are today without any segmentation and without targeting. They've almost got it by accident. And 10 years ago, they decided they're going to do a campaign to do X, Y, and Z and develop an offer for this segment. And then they had a new chief executive a few years later who was very keen on something else, and they developed another set of offers. And they've got to where they are almost by random. They've had different leaders, different management teams over the years who've taken their organization in different directions, and they've developed a response, they've developed a response, they've developed a response. So if you wrote down all of the things they offer, they've got like an enormous product catalog, which is sort of very piecemeal. It was developed in an ad hoc basis. And if you're maintaining a multiple sort of offer for the market, you tend to find your productivity is reduced. You use up more resources maintaining and developing and delivering lots of ad hoc, randomly generated offers. and you need higher costs in order to deliver them to the market. So segmentation and targeting really is a valuable commodity and a valuable activity for a business, because it will reduce your costs and improve your efficiency and improve your performance. And once you've done that, refer to part 2. So segmentation is something you could regularly keep your eye on and change it and adapt it in the light of external circumstances as you move forward. So as an action suggestion, I've got some action suggestions for you. Again, it's up to you whether you take this advice, but I think you need to complete your market segmentation for each market stakeholder group. So how would you segment your members? How would you segment your volunteers? How would you segment your donors or sponsors? And once you've got those market segments identified, then what proposition would you deliver, in my example, to young people or to people in the middle part of their business career, or in people who are at the end of their career or perhaps retired, all of whom have different wants and needs, which should be satisfied by a different marketing mix. Once you've got that, it will lead into your targeting strategy. And then for each segment, you decide which one you're going to develop an offer for, and the tools you need to do that are in the next section when I talk about tactics, and that's targeting. Moving on to the next stage is positioning, which is how, once you've identified your segments and once you've decided which ones you're going to target, you now need to think how you can demonstrate to them that you're better and different. And I'm going to show you now a concept and a model called a positioning map. And it's always done the same way. And it's supposed to help you answer this question, which is, what is it that makes you better and different in ways that are valued by and add value to your competition? Okay, so positioning is about how you address the items on that slide shown in this slightly orangey font. So this allows you to explain how you're better and different in ways that add value to your customers and are valued by them. Now, clearly, in order to do this, you must do market research to know what it is that they value and adds value to them. You cannot do market positioning without understanding the wants and needs of customers. And this will become clear as I go through how it's done today, and then, in my view, how it ought to be done. But like segmentation, you can't do positioning until you've done market research, because you don't know what wants and needs need satisfying by different stakeholder groups. So you have to have that information. And once you've done that, you can see how you position yourself against those wants and needs to get a unique position that is better and different to your competitors. It's not all about better. It's about being different in ways that add value to your customer. So this is the basic approach. Every textbook, every lecture, every business professor, every business school tells you to do it like this. They say, draw a cross and put 2 axes, low quality and high quality, and low price and high price, and then position you against your competitors on this map. And you end up with a diagram which looks something like this, where you are the red organization and you put your competitors. So on this positioning map, we're the red organization. So we're sort of a middle market. If this was clothing manufacturers, we're Marks and Spencers. We're slightly above average quality and we're slightly above average price. In the top right, you've probably got Harrods or Harvey Nichols. This is a clothing manufacturer, very exclusive, high price, high quality. Down the bottom left, you've got somebody like Primark, cheap and cheerful, low price, low quality, or as my daughter calls it, disposable clothing. And then if you were the green customer, you'd probably be somebody like Boohoo, which is who else? Boohoo, yeah, Boohoo or ASOS, which is sort of slightly cooler, slightly lower price, but good quality at affordable prices. So if you're in the clothing market, you'd position your logo. That's how typically people do it. Well, I've got color dots, people put their logo and they say, look, I've done a positioning map. And that's how it's always done. And in my opinion, that is of zero value whatsoever, absolutely none. So what? You know where you fit compared to Marks and Spencers or ASOS or Boohoo or Primark or Harvey Nichols. But so what? What does that tell you? Nothing. Because what you need to do is you need to position yourself against the wants and needs of your customers. And to explain this, rather than going to the theory, I'm going to give you a case study. And this is a case study of some real work I did with a charity that provides treatment for members or ex-members of the British service community, police or military people, were suffering from PTSD and the related mental and physical health issues. So they're retired or ex-military personnel or ex-police personnel. And having done a survey, they found out that these were the wants and needs of people who needed treatment or help in this area. What they wanted was an affordable service. They didn't want to have to pay loads of money because they're now mostly unemployed with mental health issues and they can't work very well. They want flexible appointments. They don't want to go to a regimented timetable. They want help at the time of day and on the days of the week they feel it's safe to go out, and they want 24/7 support. If they need to, speak to somebody in an emergency, like you could speak to the Samaritans, they could speak to this charity about their particular issues. They wanted a personalized service and a personalized treatment program specifically customized for them. And they wanted, as well as the help and support, which could be delivered in person with counseling or over the phone, they wanted a safe space they could meet to, relax and chill out in a safe, protected space where they don't feel so much stress and pressure. So those were the wants and needs of this particular target audience of beneficiaries for this PTSD charity. So what we need to do then is map this charity's position against these wants and needs. There's no point just doing a low cost, high cost, low quality, high quality. Make a map against pairs of axes that define the benefits that the users or the beneficiaries want. So I've just made some pairs here. It's subsidized treatment, chargeable, safe space, or counseling only. And then you can see the other positioning maps here. So once you've got the factors that people benefit or value, you need to mix them together in different pairs, and then you can position yourself and put you against your competitors. So for the sake of argument, let's say we've now, against these three pairs of consumer or beneficiary values, we can see how our red charity fits against our competitors, if I can call it that, against other charities that offer PTSD treatment or medical treatment for people with PTSD problems. And what you're looking for is a clear white space where you exist and there's no competition, or a clear white space you can move into. And let me give you an example. If this was the real case for a PTSD charity, the red circle is the one in question. You do this exercise, you fill out these three positioning maps against identified user benefits, and then you look at where you can go or reposition. So for the left-hand diagram, it would seem clear that you should move southwards. You should move and start offering subsidized services, which included a safe space. So if you're there, you can differentiate yourself because you're offering the same things as your competitors, but you're in a different place because you're doing it with a heavy subsidy. So you're not charging the people who are receiving the treatment. If you're in the middle diagram, you can see here, let's let me move this box out of the way. You can see here that I'd recommend you move to the left, because what people want is a personalized service. And if you move to the left, your red circle would move to the left, and you'd give the most personalized service to your clientele. And in the right-hand positioning map, you've got a fixed schedule. So what I would suggest you do is move down here, because fixed schedule's okay, but people want 24/7 and they want a subsidized service. And in the right-hand positioning map, if you could move strategically from your current fixed schedule, semi-subsidized, to the bottom right quadrant in this diagram, you'd be offering a 24/7 service which was subsidized, which would put you head and shoulders above everybody else, because you're in a white space where no other competitors are, and you're delivering two valuable things that customers want or clients want: a subsidized service and 24/7 availability. And this, on this slide, is how you do a positioning map properly. And I've never seen this taught in any textbook, in any lecture, or from any other business lecturer apart from me. So I'm not saying nobody else has done it, but I've never seen anybody else done it. So if you are doing positioning, this is how to do it properly. So what I suggest, another action you might want to take on board if you want to follow this program through, is once you've done your segmentation, once you've done the targeting, then you need to do some research to see what wants and needs customers have in the different target segments you've identified. So what are the wants and needs from members who might be retired from business? What are the wants and needs for business professionals at the middle stage of their career, say 25 to 45, and what are the wants and needs of younger people who are just starting out, perhaps going to final university education, or perhaps going out into the world of work at age 16 to 18. And you create different positioning maps for each of those segments to show and build offers which are better and different from your competition in ways that are valued by your target markets. And the tools we use to build those are the tactics, which is the next stage of the model. But before I get into that, I'm just going to say a few words about brand management. Branding is a very popular topic. It's like sex and football. Everybody's an expert and everybody's got an opinion. And brand management is about how your brand, you can express it in a different way. And I've got a quote here from my friend, Professor Leslie de Chenatonnay, who's a former member of the Marketors Livery Company. And what Leslie says, he's a professor at business school professor in both Warwick Business School at Warwick University and in Lausanne in Switzerland. And he says there are lots of views about what a brand is, often taking a tactical perspective. And he says, my firm belief is that a brand is a cluster of functional and emotional values that enables the organization to make a promise about unique and welcome stakeholder or customer experience. Ultimately, brand management is promise management. So my question to you to think about is, what is the promise that you are making as Toastmasters District 71? What do you promise? What benefits do you promise for your users, your members, that it has both functional value, like it allows them to be good at public speaking, it allows them to communicate effectively, it will help them progress in their career perhaps, but also emotional values. It will increase their self-confidence, it will reduce their stress, and it will give them another way to socialize and meet people in a similar place to themselves. And that's how you develop your brand positioning. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick quiz, and I'm going to ask you some questions about brands, and I think I can predict what your answer is going to be. People talk about branding, but just think how powerful brands are, successful brands. Let me demonstrate that to you. I don't want you all to answer because we haven't got time, but think about which brand would you think of if I said, just think of a brand for a luxury watch. I'm guessing it would be Rolex. What brand would you think of if I said mobile phone? I'm guessing most of you would say Apple iPhone. It was the first mass marketed mobile phone. What brand do you think of for a safe family car? Guessing you'll think Volvo. Baked beans, Heinz. Cornflakes, Kellogg's. Social media platform, Facebook. Very obvious. That's the power of brands. It's the top of mind. 90% of the people will answer the questions in the way that I've just outlined. What's the best jeans brand? Levi's. 99% of people say Levi's. Now, 99% of people don't buy Levi's, but everybody thinks of Levi's first when you talk about blue denim jeans. In terms of charity organizations, which brand do you think of helping former service personnel? Help for Heroes in the UK. For HIV/AIDS, Terence Higgins Trust. UK Animal Welfare, well, the RSPCA, or perhaps Battersea Dogs Home if you happen to live in London. Child Protection, it would be the NSPCC or Barnardo's, both of whom I've done work with. And for famine relief, Oxfam, and for human rights, Amnesty International. And that's the power of brands in the world of charity. And just to prove how really powerful brands are, I'm going to show you a few pictures here and tell me if you recognize the brand. I'm just going to show you a tiny part of a brand logo, and I'll bet you get all of these right. Whose brand's this? BMW. World Wildlife Fund, that's the corner of a panda's head. This is obvious, everybody in the world knows this, McDonald's. And the final one, of course, that's the logo of Facebook. And just on that slide and those answers, which I guess most of you, I guess 90% of you gave the same answers that I suggested, that shows you the power of brands. And that's the position you want to get into in your market segment. So how do you create what's called a unique selling proposition? A unique selling proposition is a short statement of what your brand stands for. You could say, yes, I work with Toastmasters, and what we do is, what sentence would come out of your mouth then? Toastmasters, or my district of Toastmasters, does what? What would you say? If you're in the lift with somebody, say, oh, you work for Toastmasters, I've not heard of them, what do they do? What would you say? Because if you don't stand for anything in the mind of your target stakeholder, then you stand for nothing. And there's no particular reason to use your brand. And if you don't stand for anything, people just buy you or not buy you solely on the price. So there's a number of helpful tips that I've developed over time to help you develop your value proposition. Now, I understand because you're an international company whose headquarters is in the United States, you may not have the freedom to develop your own USP. And you might have a very great USP that I'm not aware of, and I'm not being sort of sarcastic here. I don't know what your USP is. I haven't studied your brand in sufficient detail. But if you don't have a brand USP that's clear and talks about the values you deliver to your stakeholder, and if the US will allow you to develop one for this region geographically, where District 71 is located, then I recommend that you build a USP, because it's a very important part of your tactical and marketing communications. So I've built here 7 questions which you can use if you want to do a little workshop on how would you build a USP for Toastmasters. How would you answer the 7 questions here? And I'm not going to go through them all today and suggest the answers, but if you could answer these 7 questions in a group and get consensus that everybody in the management of your organization agrees, then you stand a very good chance of building a compelling USP that describes the value that you deliver in terms of how it affects the customers, not what you do. So talk about what you do for the customer, not just what you do. Okay, so that's just a little side step into the world of branding. So again, using the USP concept, if you're permitted to and if you want to, that was how I recommend you do the development of a USP for your organization. So any questions so far before I go on to the next section of today's presentation? Are there any questions, Mr. Question Master?
Indeed, Peter, and thank you for giving us so much to think about. I've actually got 3 questions that have been sent to us so far. The first one is from Megan in relation to the actual promotion of a brand. And are there any actionable methods that you could recommend for our individual clubs run by volunteers to market their clubs to potential new members?
Who asked that question?
That was from Megan.
Right, Megan, I'll pay you later because that's an absolutely brilliant question that I'm going to cover in the next section. So thank you for that.
She's reading ahead of the curriculum. We'll come back to it then. Thank you. Well, if you don't mind, I'll move then to another question actually from Elizabeth here, which is Toastmasters International did some global segmentation work a few years ago, where they interviewed people who were members of Toastmasters from around the world. They identified segments like retirees, as you said, or young professionals. In your view, do you think we in our district in the UK and Ireland could just adopt that model, or do you think we would need to do our own local research into the people that might get value out of the program?
It depends how long ago it was, and it depends if the market, I call it the marketplace, if the market situation is different in UK and Ireland to America. I know you said they did it from around the world, but I'd be very surprised if the segments were consistent, for example, in North America, Europe, and the Far East. I've worked for lots of international businesses, either as employee or I've been executive manager of them, or I've consulted for them. And I'm doing one at the minute for a global company. And all the segments are the same. So there's one that's about, I'm working with a company that does something in the world of music. So they've got beginner musicians, hobbyists, semi-professionals, and professionals. And those are their 4 market segments. And they're building offers for beginners, for hobbyists, for semi-professional, professional musicians. But those requirements are different in different geographies. And what a professional musician in North America wants is different to what a professional musician in Europe wants and values. The wants and needs are in a different order base. They all want something off the same list, but what Europeans think is the most important top 3 is different to what Americans think is the best top 3. So I would recommend you do some local market research. I mean, you've got the audience, you've got your existing members. Write a short questionnaire and email it to them, or write it on SurveyMonkey and email it to them. It's not difficult. It wouldn't cost you much money or any money really. It's just the time to write the questionnaire.
Thank you. And actually, I very much like that idea that the segments or the broad categories might be the same around the world because of the type of service being provided, but the individual needs will be much more localized.
Yeah, they're in a different order. I mean, I've just written 3 surveys for my music client, which are being done in 3 European countries at the moment.
Yeah, wonderful, thank you. And the other question we've got from Sarinka with relation to the positioning maps.
Yep.
How do you determine where to put your coloured dots? Where do you put your logos and where do you put other people? In other words, how do you measure where you are and measure where other people are?
Right. If you can't guess what I'm going to say, it is market research. You ask your clients. You find out, you do a survey with them and say what's important to you. And then you say, well, how well can you give us a rating of Axis 1 and Axis 2? And how about, let's say you believe your competitors are, I don't know, Rotary clubs and Freemasons and charities and the Girl Guides or the National Trust in the UK, right? Just do a survey saying, how do we compare against topic 1 compared to our competitors? And that gives you the answer.
Excellent point. Thank you. And those were the ones we might have another one later. But
well, I'll press on again. Then time for questions again later on. And I think probably at the next break, the next questions will also be 5-minute break. So where we are today now is moving on to the next section, which is tactics. And these are the tools we need to deliver the strategy. So we've got situation, where are we today, objectives, where are we going, strategy, how we'll get there, and tactics, answers which way is best. And I'm going to talk about this in this section. And this is a concept that everybody who's ever studied marketing knows, because it's one of the most basic, fundamental constructs in marketing. It's a concept called the marketing mix, which is also known as the 7 Ps, for reasons which will become apparent shortly. And the marketing mix is a concept developed by an American academic called E. Jerome McCarthy in the 1950s that says, how do we define what we actually offer to our target market, to our target audience? And in the 1950s, Jerome McCarthy came up with the 4 Ps, which was the original model of the marketing mix, which was product, price, promotion, place. And he said, on a piece of paper, you could write down our products, our prices, how we promote or communicate it, and the places where we sell it. And that's the first version of the marketing mix. It was developed for organizations, first in America and then internationally, that sold physical products. So it's for motor car manufacturers, fridge, TV manufacturers, FMCG, food and drink companies. And they spend a lot of time thinking about the definition of the offers that they brought to the markets. So basically speaking, once you've got a different market segment with different wants and needs, each segment has to have its own special marketing mix, its own product, its own price, its own promotion, its own place, specially for them. Now, as the time moved on and we went into the 60s and 70s, it was observed that more and more organizations were adding services to what they brought to the market. And there were 3 more Ps were invented, which were people, process, and physical evidence. And I'm going to go through all these Ps in detail, but as you can see here now, we've got 7 Ps: product, price, promotion, place, people, process, physical evidence. And that's the current manifestation of the marketing mix. Now, from time to time, academics who want to become famous try and introduce another P, but it's mostly rejected by the existing academics because we don't like it. So occasionally you see another P has been introduced called packaging. Well, you know, there you go. So those are the 7 Ps. And the way we use these is to build offers for our clients. So what do you actually offer? Sometimes you deliver a product offering. It's a tangible product or a thing. So Toastmasters could, for example, offer a book on public speaking. You could write books or ebooks or digital books or lessons. You could deliver a book, a course on how to do public speaking. You could provide a service, which is training and teaching and experience and safe spaces to do it, about presentations. So you could make a book and you could offer competitions or round tables or lunches or social events built around the concept. They don't walk away with anything physical, but they've either watched or seen or experienced or delivered speaking in public. And you could do a combination of the two. You could combine, you could sign up for Toastmasters for young people, and what you will get is 3 books written by Toastmaster specialists, plus a 6-month training program or experience program, plus a 3-year membership to Toastmasters, so you get to go to all the events offered by District 71. So that's the first thing you need to think about, is how you develop and describe the product. And the product that you give to young people, and the product you give to middle-ranking business people, and the product you give to retired people will be different because they're different segments, they have different wants and needs, which you should research, and then you build a different offer or a different product for each of your segments. Okay, so that's the P of product. The next P is price. And for charities, this is a charity model I developed. There are 5 basic different ways that charities deliver their services. There's a charity in London associated with the Lord Mayor and the City of London, which is called the Samuel Wilson Loan Trust. And what it does, it's a charity that's been established since Victorian times, and it makes loans to small businesses to get them up and running, get them started. But the loan has to be repaid, and there's a contract between the charity and the people who want the startup capital. The next version is a grant where the City of London Sheriff and Recorders Fund, and this is a charity associated with the Old Bailey Courts in London, make grants of money to ex-offenders. And they got a bit of comment in the London press recently because there was an ex-offender, an ex-burglar, who came out of prison and wanted to start a window cleaning business, and they gave him money to buy ladders. There were questions about whether this was a sensible thing to do, giving ladder to an ex-burglar. Anyway, they did. There's charities such as the Salvation Army who give everything and all their wonderful service and their wonderful support to homeless people or distressed people. They give it for free. There's charities like the PTSD Resolution Charity I mentioned before, which does free treatment to people suffering, ex-military, ex-service people suffering from PTSD, but asks them to make a contribution, but only if they can afford it. And there are charities such as Relate, which is what used to be called marriage guidance. It's the relation counselling service, and everything they do is chargeable. So you, in your organisation, you could decide which one or all of those models you're going to offer in terms of the price. So you could have a Toastmasters District 71 offer, which is at a lower price point for young people and students because they've got less money. And you could do a sort of prestige, higher quality, higher enricher product at a higher price for retired older people because they've probably got some savings and this is their main hobby or their main interest now. So they're likely to have more money they wish to spend on it. The third P is promotion. And this is all about marketing communications. And to answer the lady's question earlier who asked about how do you communicate these things, that's what I'm going to tell you about now. So marketing communications is all about 3 things: the message, what do you want to say, the market, whom do you want to say it to, and the method, which is the tools and techniques you use to deliver it. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about these things. So let's go back and just remind ourselves where we are. This is the SOSTAC model, right? We've done situation, objective, strategy, and we're now in the T of tactics. And that's why it's highlighted in red. In tactics is a concept called the marketing mix: product, price, promotion, place, people, process, physical evidence. And what we're talking about now is the P of promotion. And that's all about marketing communications in its broadest sense. And if we expand that out, there are 3 things you need to think about: the message, the market, and the method. And the most important of these, and the things that people stumble with, is the methods, because there's a whole host of different tools and techniques that you can use to deliver the messages. And you can see they're in that box on the right. It's everything from advertising, public relations, down to social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and so on. Now, quite often when I'm invited in to do some consulting work or give advice to charities, everybody focuses on the right-hand side of this diagram. They say, we want to get more people on our Facebook page, or nobody looks at us on Instagram, or is Twitter still worthwhile? And they just focus on social media. Because over the past 5 to 7 years, it's become a sort of trendy hot topic, and charities think they want to be sort of leading the field, and therefore they want to do social media. But as you can see, unless you've done a proper SOSTAC plan and looked at the marketing mix and the promotion, and decided which messages you want to deliver to which market using which methods, it's pointless diving in and saying what we need is a Facebook program, or we need to improve our website. You've got to look at this whole thing holistically. And that diagram there summarizes really all of undergraduate university teaching on marketing, planning, and communications. It's all there on one slide. That's a 1-year course there on that slide. But let me just take the middle piece of this: the message, the market, the method. And on this next slide, I'm going to show you how to use this 3Ms model to develop a communications plan. And this again is how to do marketing communications on one slide. And I invented this. I've not seen this anywhere else in any textbook or from any other academic. This is my invention. And it's very simple. You need to build a model like this. which is literally a simple Excel spreadsheet. And if you look at the axes across the top, we've got the different markets, market 1, market 2, market 3, market 4, and so on. And these are the groups of people with whom you wish to communicate. They might be market segments. So in your case, market 1 might be retired people. Market 2 might be people in the middle of their career. And market 3 might be students and people just starting work. Market 4 might be the press, and market 5 might be local government, I don't know. Okay, so you've got 3 consumer markets, and in this case, this example, the press you want to talk to. And then you've got messages. What do you want to say to market 1 and market 2? What do you want to say to market 3 and 4? And you list your messages down the left-hand column of this diagram. So here, just around the edges, you've got the markets across the top, and you've got the messages you wish to deliver down the left-hand side. And then the boxes in the middle where these things intersect, you talk about the method. So I want to deliver message 1 to young people, and I want to deliver message 2 to young people. Message 4 to young people. So you might, method 1 might be through the website. Method 2 might be by email. Method 3 might be by social media. Method 5 might be a press release. Method 4 might be a TV campaign. Method 5 might be local radio. So the things on this slide, these methods in the communications mix in this right-hand box here, are the tools that you put in the middle of this matrix. So PR, events, marketing, conferences, exhibitions, direct marketing, email, paper mail, brochures, website, social media. And once you've filled this in, all you need to do then is a project plan with dates and activities, and that's your communications plan. So on this one slide, that model there is how to write a communications plan. Add on a project roadmap, which I'll show you a bit later on, and those 2 pieces of information is your marketing communications plan. Just draw a couple of things to your attention. Some markets get 1 message, some markets get several messages, which, as you might expect. The press might get loads of messages, but retired people might just get 1 or 2 because that's the only messages that are relevant for them. Some messages go to 1 market, some messages go to several markets. So one of your messages might be, get involved with Toastmasters and increase your confidence, reduce stress, have a happier, healthier life. That might be relevant to all. It might be relevant to young people and for people in the middle of their career, and it might be relevant to retired people, and it might be something you want to say in the press, and it might be something you want to say to the local community. And some methods appear just once, and some methods appear in many places. So if you might just want to do a special event or a dinner for the press, where you just invite the press and only the press, but you might put loads of things on social media. You might put loads of things on your website, or you might do emails about loads of different topics. So that's it. That's on one slide, how to do a marketing communications plan, supplemented by the project plan I'll talk about a bit later on. So you also need to consider the budget and other resources that you need to do this, and I'll cover that in the action planning step of the SOSTAC model a bit later on. Place is literally the physical place where you deliver your services. And this was a general slide I made for charities. Sometimes they deliver their products and services and sell things through shops. For some places, they literally drop it out the sky if they're dropping tents or food to areas that have had a natural disaster. They might do it through a website. They might do it with one-to-one counselling. They might do it by lobbying. So where do people go to buy a Toastmasters subscription? Is it through your website? Is there a help desk they can phone? Is there a drop-in centre? Is there a shop? Where do they go to buy or to acquire or to sign up for Toastmasters? And then the final piece I want to talk about of the 7 Ps before we have our 5-minute break is the services. And if you remember, the services were 3 Ps. The first one was the P for people. And this is really things you need to think about, the people who deliver your service. This is not your customers. People often make the mistake thinking the P of people in the marketing mix is the customers. It's not. It's the people who deliver your services. So what do you know about them? Are they well-trained, friendly, professional, knowledgeable, and so on? I'm sure they are. But what could you do to continue and maintain that and tell people about it? The process is, how easy is it to sign up for a Toastmasters membership? How easy is the interview process or the application process, the website? Is it an online form? Do they have to do an interview, a phone call, send in their CV, give you any background about them? How easy is it? And we know about good services from banks or airlines or electricity companies or phone companies. Some are really good, some are really bad. And often it's due to the quality of the process they force you to go through to make a complaint or try and get somebody to help you. How many times have we heard the message, your call is important to us, but we're experiencing very high call volumes at the moment. Please be patient. Well, if you have got high call volumes, hire more staff, I would say, but then I'm in marketing. And finally is the concept of physical evidence. If you're buying a service, you can't see it. If you're buying a Toastmasters membership, you can't see, you can't get a book about, you can't touch the Toastmasters experience. It's like a massage or a haircut or a hotel stay. You don't know what it's like until you've spent the money and experienced the service firsthand. And therefore, organizations need to provide proof points to tell people what the service is going to be like before they spend money on it, to give them the confidence. And this is things like user-generated content. It's testimonials, it's case studies, it's white papers, it's other users making little videos, it's videos of people having a great time at a Toastmasters event, or it's a star rating on the website where customers have said, this was really great, I bought a Toastmasters subscription and it's the best money I've ever spent. So the action for the marketing mix is, once you've done the segmentation and once you've done the targeting and once you've done the positioning, how are you going to use these 7 Ps to build different offers for the different market segments that you're going to go after to make you better and different in ways that satisfy identified customers' wants and needs? So before I go on to the stakeholder journey, we're about halfway through now. So what I'll do, I won't take any questions just now, but I'll declare a 5-minute break now. If you could come back, let's say it's 10 minutes to the hour, wherever you are. It's 10 to 8 in England. So could you come back at 5 to the hour? So 5 minutes break, and I'll see you back here in the meantime. All right, see you in 5 minutes. So thank you very much. The recording has now started again. So here we are. I'm going to speed up a little bit now because I've got another couple of sections to cover with you. And I want to make sure it all fits in before we finish for this evening. The first one is a concept called the stakeholder journey. And this is slightly modified from a generally known marketing concept called the customer journey. What it says is, when people are considering buying something, they go through different mental processes. The first one, they become aware of the possibility or aware of the brand. So let's, for the sake of argument, say I'm thinking of buying a new car. What I'll do is I'll go and do market research on the internet. I'll look up magazines about motoring, and I'll decide which cars are available, which brands offer the right sort of car for my wants and needs at the sort of budget that I can afford. I'll then do more research, look at user-generated feedback, look at what other buyers and purchasers have said about it, and I'll get myself down to a short list, let's say of 2 or 3 car brands that I'll go and take a test drive of. So from 20 or 30 car brands I looked at the first, I get down to a short of what's called a consideration list. I then take the action, which in most cases commercially is you buy the product, but in a membership organization, the action is you sign up and become a member. And then the organization engages with you and delivers its services, and you have an opinion about it. And what the organization is trying to do is retain you as a member for the long term. So these steps describe the customer journey, and it's what goes on in the customer's mind as they go through this purchase or membership sign up. Now, that describes what the customer's mind has. There's another model which I've used, which is a modified version of the race model, and I call it the RICER model. The original race model was developed by a friend of mine, Dr. Dave Chaffee, but I've modified this. This is my modified version, particularly for charities. And you can see there, I made this model last year in 2020. And what I'm saying is that organizations, in order to facilitate and make the customer journey as smooth and frictionless as possible, need to go through 4 steps, which is reach, interact, convert, and then engage and retain. I'll explain how those steps fit in on subsequent slides. So the stakeholder journey, just to remind you, is what the customer thinks, their thoughts and emotions, their decision-making process. And the RICER model is what your organization needs to do to make the customer journey as frictionless as possible. So don't get confused. The stakeholder or the customer journeys, the mental processes the customer goes through. The RISA model are the things that an organization does to make that journey as frictionless, as seamless as possible. So let's look at the 4 stages of the RISA model. The first one is to reach out and communicate with potential stakeholders, potential members, to raise their awareness of your organization. And when you're doing this, for each step of the RISA model, you need to think of 3 things. There's objectives. What are you trying to achieve? What tactics are you going to use? Which marketing mix, which 7 Ps, and how are you going to measure your success? And again, this, I've not seen this developed anywhere. This is a model I've developed specifically for charities and membership organizations. And what I'm going to help you to do is think how you would fill this in for your organization. At the end of it, I'm going to give you a filled in template to give you a sort of starting point, so you don't have to do all this from scratch. The second, so what you need to do for the reach stage, what might I want to measure or set objectives for? I might want to have objectives for inquiries or attendance at events or sign-ups or the number of people who download an application form. So I could set a numeric smart objective for each of those things. The tactics I might use are things like via your website, via advertising, news placement, public relations, events, social media, and advertising. Because at this stage, you don't have the person's email address. So this is primarily an advertising activity to increase your reach and make people aware in the first stage of the customer journey. And what might you measure to see if you're successful? And these are the metrics you would use. It might be the number of inquiries, number of requests for information, the number of attendees at events, the number of signups, the number of downloads. So basically the metrics and the objectives match. And that's a typical filled in little model for the reach stage of a membership organization. Now, you have to build a plan for yourself. So you would have to decide for your organization, what objectives would you set, what tactics, and what metrics. And in fact, you need to do that for whichever stakeholder group you're looking at. So let's say it's members. You need to build a model like that for the reach, interact, convert, and the engage and retain stage. So if you just look at members, you've got 4 of these planning sheets to fill in. And so whether you're talking about the reach stage, the interact stage, the connect stage, or the engage and retain stage, you need to think how you're going to do that for your organization. Now, as I said, towards the end of this section, I'm going to give you examples of how you might do all of those sheets. But in reality, you need to do that 4 sheets, reach, interact, convert, engage and retain, for members, for volunteers, for donors or sponsors, or whoever you decide your market segments are. So if you're just looking at members, you'd need to do these 4 sheets for all members. Reach, interact, convert, engage and retain. And for each one, you need to fill in the objectives, the tactics and the metrics, which again helps to answer the question from the lady who asked earlier, well, how do I do this in a practical sense? This is how you do it. You don't have to do it all at once. You might decide for your organization that the most important thing at the minute is to attract new members. So you might focus for the next 6 months, all your activities on reaching out, the reach and interact stages, just to get new members in. Or you might decide that you're not having a problem collecting new members, but you've got quite a high rate of attrition, people leaving the organization, in which case you might focus on the 4th stage, which is engage and retain, and spend 6 months doing engage and retain activities. You don't have to do all 4 steps and therefore fill out all 4 sheets and do it all at the same time. Many charities don't have the resources to do that. And they just say, right, for the next 6 months, we're going to focus on new member acquisition, or for the next 6 months, we're going to focus on retention, or the next 6 months, we're going to focus on people signing up, closing the deal, getting people to make the decision. Okay, so you decide which ones are relevant to your organization. I won't take any questions now, as I've got quite a bit to carry on. There'll be time for questions later on, because I'm going to move on to the next stage now, which is action plan, which answers the question, who does what and when? And this is all about project management and project planning. And essentially, at its simplest, you need to define the tasks you're going to need to undertake in the next year or 6 months or however long a project lasts, the timetable, the relationship between those tasks and the resources that you need. And a very simple way to do this, I'll get onto that. This is bad practice. This is what particularly charity, I'm not saying you guys are guilty of this, but these are problems that many charities have due to lack of experience or lack of marketing skills. They have no objectives. I say to charities, so what's your objectives for this year? They say, oh, we don't really have any objectives. I said, well, what about revenue? How much revenue do you need to generate? Or how much income? Oh, well, we don't know yet. We'll be able to tell you at the end of the year what we did. How many new volunteers do you need to hire or recruit this year? Oh, well, we'd like to get quite a lot, but we haven't got a target for it. So they've got no aims, no objectives. There's no ownership. Nobody's in charge of a marketing plan, as you would recognize it. There's no ownership of any of the tasks in the plan. Very often organizations, and I've worked for loads of organizations, have what I call meeting mania. In my last organization, when I worked in Paris, we'd have quarterly worldwide country managers meetings. So I'd be sitting in the head office in Paris where I worked, and we'd send for 22 country managers from 22 countries. They'd all come to Paris, have lovely 2 days of meetings. We'd stay in a lovely hotel and have lovely food and beautiful meals out every night. And then they'd all fly back to their countries. There were no minutes taken and no actions, no action plan afterwards. Nobody was responsible. There was no agenda, and it was just a random nice chat. Very nice chat. Drank my own body weight in Chablis, but not a lot was achieved, and there was no follow-up. So I'm sure you don't do any of those bad things, but that's what can happen with charities. So what you need is project management. And you can do a simple little chart like this, which I did based on an Excel spreadsheet, which down the left, you say, what activities am I going to undertake? Who's the audience and what resources do we need? And then week by week, what's going to happen and what follows what. And you can see there that if something expands and takes longer, it takes 4 weeks rather than 3, then everything after it is going to be affected and the whole project will slip in time. And that's a simple way to do project management just using an Excel spreadsheet. It's dead easy to do. And from my experience, most charities or not-for-profit organizations do not do this. A more robust and more professional way, you use a proper project management tool. And the one I favor is it's called Microsoft Project. And it's like PowerPoint or Excel or Word. It's the project management tool that comes in the Microsoft product family. It's about, the base, I've just got a single user version, which is £27 a month just for me to be able to use it. They do slightly larger licenses for organizations if you've got 5 or 10 members, and if you want to share project plans across geographic boundaries, if you want to be international. So on this, it's slightly more fancy, but if you look down, it's got a list of tasks, which says ERM software implementation. It's got the day's duration, it's got the start and end date of each task. So what you do is you fill in that everything inside the red box, you put that in yourself, you say what needs doing and how long will it take and when do you want to start it. And the Microsoft Project will plot a diagram like this, which is called a Gantt chart, which shows you how it looks over time. And you can see it's animating now, because what happens here is one of the things, which is the blog post activity, it will move in a minute and it says, oh, this is starting later. There might have been some delay in supply or somebody was off sick. Therefore, it's going to start later. You can see, whoop, it's moved to the right. And therefore, everything that's connected to it also slips further to the right. And Microsoft Project builds this Gantt chart automatically for you. And it's a fantastic product. And if you haven't used it, I recommend it. It's brilliant. And it's called Gantt because it was named after Elmer Gantt, who was an American naval engineer who invented this concept after the Second World War. Bit of commercial marketing history for you there. One of the things that the project plan also looks at after, if you use Microsoft Project, is what's normally known as the 4 M's: men, money, machines, materials, and minutes, or the 5 M's. And those are the resources that everybody has available to them. You need to work out how many people, how much money, what facilities or materials or raw materials, and how long it's going to take for each task. And that's resource planning and resource management, which again, Microsoft Project does for you and produces loads of reports. I used to teach Microsoft Project. I should say, by the way, a lot of the things I'm talking about this evening, I'm going through in 1 or 2 slides, which if it was at a university would be, a 6 or 7 lecture series. So you're getting a huge amount of information in a very compact time this evening. And I know that, and it can be difficult to follow all of this. But if you look at the playback, then it should be less troublesome to actually follow my logic and what I'm saying. So what I'm suggesting is, this is best practice for meeting protocols. Set clear purpose for all meetings, issue an agenda in advance, and send out the minutes of any meeting very soon after it's happened. Set clear responsibilities and due dates for everything you agree in the meeting. Right, Tom, you've got to do this by next Friday. Susan, please produce this within 2 weeks, and somebody else do something else. The only thing that's not acceptable is not meeting the deadline. If you can't make it, tell somebody early. Don't turn up on the due date and say, I'm sorry, I haven't finished it, I didn't have time. If you're going to struggle, tell somebody, and they can perhaps rebalance the resources you have or give you more time, but don't put in any surprises. And I would say that everybody, whether it's a small not-for-profit charity or a small organization up to global companies, should do project management much more professionally than, in my experience, they do. Quickly, I could see if there's any quick questions here. We're in good shape time-wise. I've just got one more section to go. So any questions? Mr. Question Master.
I've not received anything in the chat, Peter. So if anyone would like to send me any questions or
what I'll do then is
their
I'll
hand
press
now.
on, and there'll be time at the very end for chat in the remaining time. Okay.
Thank you.
Good. So we're now on the final section of SOSTAC. We've come along. I feel like bursting into song. We've come a long, long way together, but we're now on the last section, which is control. So once you've done situation, objective, strategy, tactics, actions, how do you ensure safe arrival? And this is all about the area of 3 things: metrics, key performance indicators, and analytics. And I'll just say a few words about these things, because these are the tools and techniques we use to measure the success of our plan. And this is what we use to see if we've achieved our objectives. We have metrics, which is what you're actually going to measure. For example, website visitors or donor income or sign-ups or follows on social media or application forms received. There's the KPIs, which is where do you go to get the information. So if it's the website, you could use a tool such as Google Analytics. You could look at your customer relationship management system. You could look at your financial services system to see what invoices you're issuing, or you could look at your bank statements and see what money's coming in from which members, who's behind, who's on top. And most organizations are now starting to build a customer relationship management system to track the organization's interaction with its different members or beneficiaries or customers, depending on the title. And analytics are which tools you're going to use. So you could use Google Analytics on your website. There's a Just Giving system, which is a charity management system to manage and track donations and sponsorships. And then there's CRM reporting tools to see in your database how many of your members signed up. Of the ones who've signed up, how many are returning to events, how many are registering at events and turning up, how many are participating at events, how many people are speaking, how many people are going, how many people, just general engagement with the organization. Now, I'm going to shock you now, so don't panic. I'm going to show you 3 horrible slides now of all the possible things you could measure. And this slide is perhaps the most relevant, and it's the things you can measure for financial considerations. It's the things you can measure about your customers, and it's the things you could measure because you're a marketing and sales organization. Now, that's everything you could possibly measure. Your finance people take care of finance, somebody in marketing or recruitment looks after customers, and somebody who's responsible for marketing and sales, I guess Elizabeth, would look at some of the areas on the right. But as I've just stressed to you, this is a total list of all the things you could measure. IBM doesn't measure all of these things. Some companies I've worked for measure most of them, but charities often measure very few or almost none of these. So you need to think about these things. And what you choose from this list depends on what objectives you've set. If one of your biggest important things is customer satisfaction, you've got a customer satisfaction, so you've measured Net Promoter Score. You might want to measure customer retention rate or customer satisfaction index. So you decide which of these are important, because these are the things you're measuring to see if you're achieving your objectives. Objectives are what success looks like. This is how you measure that success. Now, I've got 2 more horrible slides, so don't panic. This one is from operational processes. If you're a manufacturing company or a retailer, that's what you should measure. If you're an HR department in a big company, those are the things you measure about employees. And finally, if you're a socially responsible organization, you probably have some metrics to do with corporate social responsibility, which is things like your carbon footprint and your energy consumption and your conservation and your waste reduction and waste recycling rate. But that's mostly for manufacturing companies. Now, if you're really keen on these things, like sadly I am, this is a great book I recommend. It's called Key Performance Indicators. It's one of the Financial Times management series published by Pearson, and it's available on Amazon. And to be honest with you, it's the table of contents from this book that I got the last 3 slides of detail. And if you read this book like I have, it tells you in detail how you measure each of those things and why it's a benefit and how it helps you. So in this book is 75 measures every manager needs to know, or clearly not, but you know what I mean. So let me now return to this RISA model. Let's look at the metrics particularly. So I'm now going to show you a completely filled in planning form for each step of the RISA model. Remember I said I'm going to give you a starter. This is the starting point. These are the objectives, the tactics, and the metrics that a charity or a membership organization could use. So this could be your starting point for your marketing plan if you're interested in reaching out and attracting new customers. The focus is advertising, and it measures the response to the calls of action in each marketing communications campaign. If, on the other hand, you're trying to interact and generate interest with your potential members, you hopefully by now have captured their email address because they filled in a form saying they're interested and they've given you their email address. Now you can talk to them individually. So the primary tool you're going to use is probably email marketing, which is shown in the middle. So here for the interaction campaign, which is really getting them from knowing nothing about you, getting them to the stage where they want to join Toastmasters District 71 and pay you membership fee. These are the objectives you could have in the objectives column. These are the marketing and communications tactics you could use. And these are the metrics that you'd use to measure your success for those objectives. The third stage is the convert stage, with actually, or connect, where they actually do something. In your case, it would be they become a member. And what you do is set objectives for, well, this is general for charity, but you set objectives. And I guess the most important thing you do is you measure your membership rate and the revenue that's generated. So you'd have an objective for the number of new members, and you'd have an objective for the revenue, and perhaps some other things as well. The tactics are shown here: one-to-one communications, email, social media, and so on. And once they've joined you, you probably publish a newsletter or magazine for them, whether it's a physical document you post to their house or something that's delivered electronically by email. You might have open days, you might have event marketing. In normal times, you perhaps had open days, or come and meet us, or come to an event, or come to a competition or something. And the metrics on the right-hand side here. So you're measuring completing activities, whether it's from donations if you're trying to collect money from donors if you're a charity, or for members if you're a membership organization. And what you're trying to measure is the beneficiary or the member's engagement level at this stage. And now they've joined you, you're in the third stage, which is engage and retain. You want to build long-term relationship with them to continue delivering value as their wants and needs change, as society changes. You need to change your tactics, you need to change your marketing mixes for your target segments to get repeated value-added interactions, or in membership organizations, high level of renewals, low level of attrition from your membership. Measure stakeholder satisfaction, start a loyalty program, and perhaps have a special benefits program. You know, if you've been a member for 5 years, you get something, or 10 years, you get something, whether it's a pin, a badge, a tie, or the ability to put letters after the name, or some form of recognition or certificate to recognize their loyalty to your organization. Or you could have a donor get donor program, or member get member. Existing members, you could have a competition, or they could win a bottle of champagne, or a token, or some commercial value if they recommend another member. So the best people to get members for your organization is existing members. Who else do they know? Friends and family, colleagues, people they interact with. Would they also be good? So now that you've discussed the metrics, revisit the 4 worksheets: reach, interact, convert, engage, and retain. So basically revisit the 4 of these. I've given you the filled in ones here in these last few sections, you can see. So you've got those starting points. But what you need to do is decide which step you're going to focus on. Is it reach, or interact, or convert, or engage and retain? And fill out your first worksheet with objectives, tactics, and metrics as part of your marketing plan. So in conclusion, we've covered a huge amount in these past 2 briefings, but all you've had really is an executive summary of a longer training program, which was mentioned last week. And what you've seen in these 3 hours together for these 2 briefings is a summary of, in fact, a much longer training program. There's an 8-hour, in fact, complete day training program with 15 videos covering the things I've talked about here in executive summary in much more detail. So there's 8 hours of in-depth explanation and training and briefings on all of the topics I've covered in these 3 hours, plus loads of other stuff that I haven't got onto, because there hasn't been time within 3 hours. And if you want to see those videos, here's the link. It's bit.ly/charity marketing with a capital C and a capital M. And that will take you to the YouTube page where you can see the 15 videos. And the shortest, I think, is 15 minutes, and the longest is 1 hour and a quarter. So it's the sort of thing you can watch in your tea break, or watch on the tube, or don't watch when you're driving, or watch in the evening. 8 hours split into little bite-sized chunks. So I offer that for your consideration. And in fact, it has got quite a good response. And I recently won an award, and here's me getting the award from the Lord Mayor of London. It was this charity marketing program that I've written and just described to you was one of 28 projects that was recognised by the Lord Mayor at a ceremony in London for people who've made a contribution to society during the times of COVID and the lockdown. So I was one of 20, I think it was 26 or 28 people who got an award. And that's a write-up in Marketer magazine about me getting the award. So well done me. Finally, I'd just like to end with a quote for you. And this is a quote from Winston Churchill. I find, whatever you think of his politics, I find quite inspirational, which says that we make a living by giving, by what we get. We make a difference and make a life by what we give. And I think Toastmasters is a fantastic organization that gives a lot to the people with whom it interacts in many ways. So congratulations to you all as well. So finally, I'd just like to thank you for your time. It's been great talking with you, and we've now got about 10 minutes for any final questions or anything I can help you with further, and or you can just chat amongst yourselves about how you want to progress after you've had these briefings. I hope you found them worthwhile and useful. It's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you for the kind comments that some of you have sent me. And I'll now hand over for the very last time and say, are there any questions?
Well, thank you very much, Peter. And you wouldn't believe the amount of notes I've been making, things that I've been thinking about as we've been going along here. My head is absolutely spinning with ideas.
Right.
I do have one question that's come through from Elizabeth, which is once again related to brand communication, brand awareness. Is Toastmasters International as an organization has been around for almost 100 years now, but it's still not very well known.
Yep.
Are there specific tips or hints for a social organization like Toastmasters that we could pick up that would easily get the message out there?
Well, I think if you're not well known, it's because you've chosen not to make yourself well known. I mean, you're a unique organization. There are other membership organizations that provide sort of business and social benefit for its members. I guess the most obvious one that people most likely compare you to would be perhaps somebody like the Rotary or the Lions. Is it Lions, American organization?
Lions.
Yeah, or the Freemasons or the National Trust. I mean, people get lots of benefit from your organization, the things that you offer. I think, I'm not criticizing you, but I mean, if you want people to know about you, talk about the people. Do communications, do local radio, do interviews, do social media, do a website, but reach out. Don't just sit passively and hope people will find you. Take active steps to increase your reach and engagement with potential clients and potential members. And for the hundreds or thousands of members that you've already got, use them to recruit more members, increase the value of, did you send a newsletter to your members?
What a good question. Occasionally, yes.
Right, well, there you go.
Yes.
The big mistake that people make is don't talk to your clients, don't talk to your members. And eventually they'll get, suddenly they'll look on their bank statement and say, oh, direct debit's gone through. What's that for? Toastmasters. Oh, they charged me whatever it is a year, £100. And I've got £100 just come off my bank account from Toastmasters. Well, I haven't heard from them for 6 months. Why am I paying £100 for this? Boom, they just cancel it. So you've got to keep in communication with people, keep reminding them. I did another model, which was called the RAP model, which was the 3 steps of RAP is recruit, attend, participate. And the first stage is you recruit people, you persuade a load of people to join. They've paid their membership and they sit there, and they sit there passively and they don't do anything. They just sit there, and they might get an email, or they might get a newsletter, or they might see a social media post if they follow you on social media, but they just sit there, nothing happens. They just sit there passively. You've recruited them and you're not engaging with them. You want to take them to the next stage, which is attend an event, attend a Toastmasters event, a dinner, a lunch, a social meeting, a competition, whatever you do, your roundtables, all the things you do, you actually are actively working and engaging together as Toastmaster members, whatever it is you do. Get them along, get them to participate, and then contribute, participate, the final piece. So it's recruit, attend and participate. Get them to lead an event, get them to host something, get them to be the guest speaker, get them to video a presentation which you share with loads of people. Because there are two gaps. As they go from, if you don't move them from recruit to attend, if you just leave them sitting passively at home and an odd email drops into their inbox or an odd newsletter comes through the letterbox, they will go away. They'll forget why they joined, they'll lose their enthusiasm, and they'll leave. So you've got to take them over that first stage, moving from left to right. You've got to move them over the gap from recruit to attend. And then you've got to move them from the attend to participate. Okay? As people get older and become less able to travel in normal times and have less money and less free time and perhaps health issues, they can't participate as much as they used to. They can't lead the conversation. They can't be the spokesperson. And they drop back to attend, and they just attend events less and less. And then if they really are old and poorly and not able to move, they drop back to the recruit section, where they're now back in the armchair at home, sitting there. Nothing much happens. They don't get any news, any information, and a bank statement comes and they go, Christ, why am I paying £100 for this? And they cancel. So you've got to keep people moving, keep engaging, keep talking with them, or else, of course, they're not going to participate and you'll lose them.
Thank you. That's a very great insight. I know for those of us who are actively involved in our individual clubs, we know the value of those continued conversations that we need to have with each and every one of our members. Yeah,
and also ask their opinions. Do a customer satisfaction survey. People step back from, so I think it's negative. Oh, we're going to find out lots of bad stuff. Don't just ask them, are you happy with what we're doing or not? Because you will get criticisms. It's human nature. Ask them what else you can do. Remind them in this conversation. At the minute, Toastmasters is delivering this, so many events, so many meetings, so many competitions, so much stuff. We just want to know, how happy are you with that on a scale of 1 to 10, Net Promoter Score, and then ask them, what else could we do for you? We were thinking about this, this, and this. Which of these would be most valuable to you? Is it literature? Is it training videos? Is it competitions? Is it awards? Is it recognition? Is it certification? If you don't ask them, you won't know. And somebody in head office will have a brilliant idea, and you'll start trying to sell Toastmasters ties and, you know, cufflinks to people. You won't sell any.
No, absolutely. Well, and Peter, thank you once again. Lots of great ideas, and I'd love to listen to you all night and continue to listen to you all night. As host of the meeting, looking at the time though, need to make sure that everyone gets away from here on time. Sure. I would like to, obviously, Peter, I would like to thank you. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I would like to also thank and recognise that we have Daniel Sanders, our district director here, and Francesca Fideli, our regional advisor. Thank you both for being here. And actually on the topic, to answer one of the questions that did come through in chat as we were talking about when is this video going to be shared, I've just posted a link to the sign up form for our Growth Academy. If anyone has not signed up to that yet, please click on it, put your email address in. We can then make sure that we get you a copy of the recording from tonight and from part 1, where we can all benefit from Peter's knowledge all over again. And once again, from my perspective, thank you for a delightful and informative evening. My head is awash with ideas, and I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Peter. I would now like to hand over to Elizabeth to say thank you properly. So please welcome back Elizabeth Jordan.
Thank you, DTM, Steve. And I would like to echo my thanks for our regional advisor for being here and the district director. Peter, what can I say? Well, the first thing I can say is I've watched all 15 of your videos.
Oh, well done.
Of course, and that is what moved me to write to you. And although only about 2 people in the room know the story, it also moved me to fight to get you to come here. So that was definitely worthwhile. I want to thank you on so many levels. I, like many people, have made copious notes, and I can really recognize how this is going to help us in D71 to overcome some of the issues we have. I think the clarity with which you presented this has been outstanding. And I think the word that most would have been using is this is a real masterclass. I have been to many trainings around the world, and I have to say, Peter, this is really up there with the best of them. So I want to thank you for bringing, your expertise, your authority, your generosity to D71. And in a sense, you have the challenge, you've thrown out the challenge to us. We know what we have to do. And certainly as Club Growth Director, I will be going to the district to look for people to help pull this marketing plan together. We have already done some work on that, but I believe we can do an even better job with legacy and with longer term. So for you in the audience, I'll be coming to you. So I'm hoping hands will go up to say, yes, please, I want to help. So thank you, Peter, for, I would say, invigorating, energizing, and above all, inspiring our district to use marketing to help drive our success. Our district director is in the audience tonight, and he has set out his stall. He's looking for the district for the first time in 7 years, so to be Smedley distinguished. And what that means, we've got to go out and build a certain number of new clubs, and we've got to retain members. We know what we have to do. And I want to thank you because you've given us the tools to help achieve that. When we achieve it, my goal is to invite you back to share in our success. Because as I said, you have inspired us on the road. I'm just feeling so energized, Peter. I cannot thank you enough. So with that, I'm just going to say the 2 words, thank you, and thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Zoom Master. And to share with you just a very small token of our appreciation. I will email this to you later on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
To thank you, certificate of appreciation for everything you've done for us. It's been, as I said, a masterclass by a master.
That was my pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much.
I think we should unmute ourselves and just give an actual round of applause. We don't need to be on mute, just to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
And as all good Toastmasters, we respect time. It's exactly 2030. So I think we have to thank Peter and thank everyone in the audience and say goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.